Mizzou supplanted Florida amongst the big three in the SEC Eastern Division last season, and not only did that, they surpassed Georgia and South Carolina to take the SEC East flag and almost make it to the national championship game. Still, it was a banner year for Mizzou in 2013. 12-2, won the Cotton Bowl, finished in the top 10. Then we wrote them off. Starting in 2014, they were not ranked in the preseason top 25. They lost Coney Ealy and E.J. Gaines and Michael Sam and Dorial Green Beckham Jr., Damian Washington. So all that firepower on the outside on offense. And they lost, of course, their great defensive ends and their best covered corner and one of the best in the nation. But they got off to a great start. They looked really good under Maty Mauk. 11 touchdowns, 2 picks. Last season, Maty Mauk, one of the most prolific passers we would expect in the SEC in 2014. He can really sling it all over the place. And most impressive was that win against the Central Florida team that brought back 10 starters on defense from a team that won the Fiesta Bowl and finished in the top 10. So Mizzou looked like they were going to surprise again. And then thud last week at home against Indiana. The Hoosiers can't stop or tackle anybody, but they somehow did against Mizzou. It wasn't surprising that Indiana scored in that game because Nate Sudfeld's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. They have weapons at wideout. They were going to score points like they did last year against Missouri, 28. What was surprising was them stopping Mizzou on defense. 31-27, Indiana pulls the shocker at Missouri. Also surprising against that Mizzou defense, Indiana, yeah, they've got an excellent running back in Tavon Coleman, but for them to rush for 240 yards to move Missouri off the line of scrimmage, that was surprising to me as well. So we got Mizzou taking on South Carolina. Can South Carolina run it like Indiana did with Mike Davis at running back? He's been banged up. It's tough to watch because he was primed for a Heisman possible season. And, of course, Gurley's taken the spotlight completely. And coming off 1,100 yards and double-digit touchdowns and tons of receptions, Mike Davis hasn't been himself this season, especially with the rib injuries and other injuries. Brandon Wilds has gotten some carries. He's looked good. And South Carolina fans really want to see this David Williams. He might be the fastest guy in the roster. Get some carries, get some pass receptions as well. Dylan Thompson, kind of like Maty Mauk. He loves to stand in the pocket. And when he slings it well, he can really sling it. When he's off a bit, yeah, it's high and wide. He throws that fastball a little bit too high and wide and misses on some passes like we saw on opening night against South Carolina, 20 of 40. But when he's good like he was against Georgia when the Gamecocks ripped him up for 38 points in that 3-point win. Steve Spurrier was furious after a win against Vanderbilt. They gave up 2 kickoff return touchdowns. They got down at 21-0 before coming back, thanks to a pick 6. So South Carolina avoids the embarrassment against Vandy, win at 48-34. But Spurrier said, that's the worst win I've had in my career at South Carolina. Again, 2 kickoff return touchdowns, and that one they're going to have to do much better. Dylan Thompson, 285 yards passing per game, 11 TDs, 3 picks. And again, I'm going to be interested to see the ball distribution in the backfield between Mike Davis, Brandon Wilds, and possibly David Williams. Again, for Mizzou, they've got to stop the run. That's why it would be interesting to see a healthy Mike Davis in this game. But for Mizzou, got to stop the run after giving up a 240 spot against Indiana. They lose it on a 75-yard touchdown drive to Indiana in this one. Again, it was a bit inexplicable. Now, for Mizzou to run the ball, they've got some question marks up front. They've got a fifth-year senior in Anthony Gotti. He tore his right ACL in that game. He's gone for the season. They've made 3 offensive line changes up front. Also keep in mind that their second most productive wide receiver at Mizzou, Darius White, 230 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns. He's out for this game, so they're going to need production from guys like Wesley Leftwich and Jamon Moore backing up their number 1 target in Bud Sasser, who's caught 4 touchdowns and 24 receptions this year. It's Mizzou at South Carolina. I like the Gamecocks to win it at home, but Missouri's going to make it difficult. Mizzou covers the spread, and South Carolina wins it in a tight one. Love to hear what you have to say right here on Mark Rogers TV and I Talk SEC.